but we are in a new time, so I'll whoop his ass in July.
By being the most brutal combat sport, MMA also holds the title for being the most savage, as the sport has seen some of the most ferocious and bone-chilling moments in fighting history. Now, without further ado, from vicious finishes to fighters being completely untamed, here are the 10 most savage moments in UFC history. Number 10. Volkanovski not tapping to Brian Ortega. In his second UFC featherweight title defense, Alexander Volkanovski chose to die rather than tap out in the octagon when he was facing the submission wizard Brian T-City Ortega.
And has made himself a star.
He's on the top for T-City. That's tight. Oh my goodness, it's tight.
In the third round, Ortega dropped Volkanovski with a straight left hand and immediately put him in a guillotine choke that seemed inescapable. As soon as he got caught in the choke, the Australian was trying his best to get out, but it wasn't working. He pushed and kept tossing his legs trying to stay awake. But then the lights started to dim. In a sudden twist of fate, Ortega's arms started to get weaker from squeezing the grate. Volkanovski maintained consciousness and survived what many thought was a done deal. Ortega is one of the best submission artists in the UFC, but Volkanovski was just too savage for that to matter. The grate got on top and turned the tables. Instead of taking a breather, he unleashed hell on his opponent, delivering relentless ground and pound for the rest of the round. Number 9. Adesanya's celebration against Pereira.
Ladies and gentlemen, referee Dan Murgliata has called a stop to this contest at 4 minutes, 21 seconds of round number 2.
At UFC 287, Israel Adesanya sought immediate revenge against Alex Pereira. Poatan had knocked him out at UFC 281 to win the middleweight title, and it was do or die for the last stylebender. Pereira was his boogeyman. Just as he'd done at UFC 281, Pereira backed Adesanya up against the cage and got to work. This time, however, Stylebender covered up before countering with 2 big right hands, followed up by a hammer fist that left Pereira unconscious on the mat for minutes. In the smoothest transition you'd ever see, the 33-year-old stood above the downed Pereira and mimed shooting 3 arrows at his unconscious opponent, made a loud yell, and then broke the bow as he walked away. The complete shock and beauty of the knockout, coupled with the execution of the celebration, showed that Israel Adesanya is a savage. It was the most defining moment in Stylebender's career, but he didn't stop there. Adesanya pointed at someone in the crowd before collapsing to the mat and lying there for a moment. It was revenge for when Pereira's son had done the same to him in the second kickboxing fight with his father.
I'm petty, bro. I remember. So the first time he knocked me out in Brazil, his son came into the ring and then started to just lie dead next to me. And I'm like, I'll whoop your ass if your dad don't do it for you. But then, I looked for his kid and I pointed at him and I saw him and I was like, hey. Just to remind him.
Number 8. Davison Figueiredo versus Joseph Benavidez 2. If there was ever a 10-7 round in a title fight, it was this one.
The first fight. Oh my God, it's caught him. Wow, Joe's hurt.
The entire fight was so violent that even the UFC boss Dana White called it pure violence. Figueiredo had knocked out Benavidez 5 months earlier, but he'd missed weight for that first fight, making him ineligible to claim the title. So, they had to rematch. However, no one expected the brutality of the rematch. The God of War clipped Benavidez hard in the first few seconds. He had promised to land Benavidez his first loss by submission, so he took his back and made several rear naked choke attempts. Fakey came really close, but the God of War walked down the veteran and dropped him with another heavy right hand. Eventually, he decided it was time to wrap things up. The Brazilian battered and bloodied Benavidez before tying up a rear naked choke, which Benavidez did not tap to, and instead was put to sleep. The God of War had just returned one of the most one-sided championship victories ever seen in UFC history. Number 7. Yoel Romero versus Paulo Costa, first round. Born in 1977, Yoel Romero, despite his age, was an absolute freak of nature. He could do backflips and splits, as well as being perhaps the most explosive fighter in the UFC. But his opponent was no slouch either. Paulo Costa was not afraid to stand toe-to-toe with Yoel Romero. The Eraser put his foot on the gas pedal right off the bat as he took the fight to Romero. He was met by a Romero high kick and a takedown, which he managed to stuff. Both fighters wanted to take each other out early, and in under a minute, Costa dropped the Soldier of God with a short left hook. But almost immediately, Romero got his lick back with a knockdown when he rocked Costa with an overhand right. In what was a back-and-forth first round, Costa had won round 1 on the judges' scorecards, Both fighters survived incredible power shots, and the level of explosiveness was out of this world. They won the Fight of the Night bonus, and the first round, no doubt, one of the most savage rounds in MMA history. Both fighters swung with no caution. Number 6. The first UFC fight ever.
This is why the no holds barred, anything goes. So if you strike an elbow, you strike an elbow or a wrist or a shoulder.
We think MMA fighters today are savage. But what about the era when hair pulls, nut shots, fish hooking, and eye gouges were allowed? Well, that was the case in the first few UFC fights. The first fight in UFC history was between Tila Tully, a 6'2", 410-pound sumo wrestler, against Gerard Gordeau, a 6'5", 216-pound Savate practitioner. Savate was like French boxing without knees, and the big question was if it was to be effective against sumo. Both fighters didn't know what to expect in the first few seconds. They felt each other out until the Hawaiian giant lunged in for a takedown. The sumo wrestler ate several shots as he closed in on the elusive Gordeau. The Dutch kickboxer then ended Tully's first MMA fight with a brutal kick and an uppercut that sent his teeth flying. A brutal ending for the Hawaiian, losing his teeth in the process, with one getting lodged in Gordeau's foot upon the kick's contact. Now, if you enjoyed this video so far, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a single upload. Number 5. Jon Jones threatens Daniel Cormier. After an already heated ESPN interview, things got even more heated between Jon Jones and Daniel Cormier when they headlined UFC 178, competing for the light heavyweight belt. The video, which was quickly removed from YouTube and everywhere else, showed a vicious verbal exchange the fighters had after the camera stopped rolling for their SportsCenter interview. Jones literally threatened to kill DC after DC claimed he wished he could enter the room Bones was in and spit in his face. Jones asked Cormier,
"Hey, pussy, are you still there?"
They continued from there, and Cormier says he wishes he could spit in Jones's face, which prompts Jones to say,
"You know I would absolutely kill you if you ever did something like that,
You
right?"
could never kill me.
Oh, I bet you I could.
Then you should try, John. You really should try, John.
No, I would literally kill you if you spit in my face.
Yeah, let's try that, John.
Literally kill you.
Let's try that, John.
I'm not saying I would fight you. I said I would kill you if
John,
you did some
do you
silly
think?
shit
Do
like
you
that.
so John?
Anyone who knows a thing or two about Jon Jones is aware that he meant every bit of that threat. Considering the height of the fight and the rivalry, this is no doubt one of the most savage moments in MMA history. Number 4. Nate Diaz versus Leon Edwards. Nate Diaz fought Leon Edwards in a 5-round main event at UFC 263. It was expected to be a domination. Well, it was rightly so until the unexpected happened.
Beautiful job. Nice takedown there from Leon.
Uh-oh. Leg attack.
Gotta watch that fence grab. He's gonna lose a point if he keeps doing that, because that's a...
Throughout the fight, Rocky's left hand and low leg kicks were proving to be a lot for Diaz, whose face was left in a bloody mess by the end of the 3rd round. Edwards was on his way to victory, but the Stockton native could never be counted out of a fight. The final minute of the fight almost saw the result swing the other way. Diaz decided to give his opponent a taste of his own medicine. He connected with his right hand before launching a hefty left that spun Edwards' head. Rocky, on wobbly legs and clearly stunned. One more hit would have done it, but instead of immediately following up, Diaz pointed at his opponent Stockton style and taunted him. To Diaz, he needed to let Edwards know that he had him. Well, he did follow up, however late, and Edwards survived the torture. Edwards has gone on to win 3 title fights, and with Diaz on his way out of the UFC, that was one of the most savage moments in MMA. Number 3. Scott Smith versus Pete Sell. The UFC fight between Scott Smith and Pete Sell delivered one of the most incredible knockouts in UFC history.
Since the Ultimate Fighter for the comeback show, he said there's just a different feeling of confidence.
It was a back-and-forth fight up until Sell landed a left hook to the body of Smith. Smith was visibly hurt and backed up holding his ribs in excruciating pain. Smith looked like he could not put up any more of a fight. Sell smelled blood and charged. As he got close, Smith put all the pain he was feeling aside and landed a vicious right hand that plastered Sell's face. The knockout blow sent Sell crashing to the canvas face first. Smith, however, immediately went back to holding his body despite that he just won the fight. He was indeed not faking it, and being able to still fight with such pain was just savage. Number 2. Jon Jones sub of Lyoto Machida. Dan Henderson's H-bomb on Michael Bisping was scary, but there was something so savage about the way Jon Jones choked out Lyoto Machida.
Oh!
We faked the kick and threw a left overhand, and it landed hard. It wobbled him, dropped him to his knees.
The two met at UFC 140 when Machida stepped in as a replacement for an injured Rashad Evans. In the second round, Jones landed a game-changing elbow that cut Machida badly. With a minute left in the round, Jones landed a short left that dropped Machida. The two clinched up, and that's what gave Jones the chance to lock in a choke and then twist Machida's head in an awkward-looking angle. To the surprise of everyone, Jones had choked the Brazilian out cold, and he dropped the dragon and walked away. And number 1, Conor McGregor's speech in Rio. Conor McGregor won his first title after beating former champion Jose Aldo at UFC 194. While preparing for their battle, the Notorious appeared at a press conference in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, where he made one of the most iconic lines in the history of MMA. He said,
I own this town. I own Rio de Janeiro. So for him to say he is the king and I am the joker, if this was a different time, I would invade his favela on horseback and kill anyone that was not fit to walk. But we are in a new time, so I'll whoop his ass in July.
Conor went on to win this fight in 12 seconds, making his speech even more savage. So which moment takes the crown for being the most savage in your opinion? And what savage moments do you think we missed? Do let us know in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a single upload. See you guys in the next one.